Techno Tough, which sounded very Soul Sonic 4C, which is unlike a lot of not only what was going on in the 87 era, but also unlike a lot of the rest of the Tuff Crew. So how and why did Techno Tough start off Fan Jam for you guys?
That was the first offer that I had to do a solo DJ track. So we did it at Studio 4 with Joe the Butcher and Chris Schwartz, who I'm now working with, for the Lost Archives things. But this was many, many years ago that we started the relationship with them. And I remember Joe saying about that song, go into the studio room and just hit some instruments. And he recorded them and then turned them backwards. And that's all that shit. All the shit flying back and forth with echoes. That's us in there playing like cymbals and hitting the cowbells and stuff like that. You just made me realize that was my first DJ track. I was pining for a solo song just for me to go ahead and scratch on, and that actually was it. It was it was the precursor to D.O.C's Housing. That beat was made by Said G. It was one of those up-tempo ones. We always liked up-tempo stuff. That was actually one of Mitch's favorites, and that's why I made the album, because he thought it was a commercial hit. Mitch had a lot of say-so in what we released and what we didn't. If not for Tony Mitchell, the Godfather Mitch got things all hemmed up. If it wasn't for his vision, I wouldn't even be in a position today to be doing an interview with you. He had the vision way before we did. We were just, kids learning how to rap, loving the music, in the culture, immersed in the culture. He took us to the next level business-wise, and he gave us a gift that if we use correctly, as most of us have, we've been able to profit off of it for the entire duration of our lives. I never had to really work a job. I've been too tough, since '87. The gift and the curse.
What's the curse of it?
Well, it's been a lot of, we all make a lot of stupid decisions when we're young. I can name a few things that were the curse, doing an album and then not actually getting paid as much as you thought that you were going to get because you're not involved in the splits. You might be waiting for a big check to come and that check never comes. More recently, I've heard My Part of Town appear on the Young Rock sitcom on Peacock Network. The premiere episode featured My Part of Town in a short part. And I was surprised that they sent me an email for us to agree to, license it to them. A lot of the old rappers, the old rap groups, even Ultra, Boogie Down Productions, their first album, the artists don't own those. Mantronics, anything from Sleeping Bag, all of those catalogs have been sold and traded between, the record industry dudes or the acquisition companies. Phase One Acquisitions owns My Part of Town now. So they recently stepped up the licensing arm, and it's appeared in 4 or 5 different movies. It's been slightly profitable for us, probably more so for them. But, it keeps the name alive. And it got us to the point where I'm like right at the point of going to Europe. September 25th, we're supposed to be at the Urban Matters Festival. Busy Bee, Mantronics, Just Ice, Tuff Crew is the headliners for this one. So, who would have thought?
Congratulations, man. That's big.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. First time we'll ever be leaving the country. It was postponed for 2 years because of the pandemic. So as destiny would have it. Thank you, though.
Yeah.
Now, very proud to go over there with my team. I probably could have went there myself as a DJ, but I wanted to go there with the squad, No,
that's big, man. That's amazing. That's also your guys' first international show. That's
first
great.
Ever. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So that sounds ridiculous, which leads me to So Ridiculous from Fan Jam. Because that one was one of the more interesting because of the accent. That accent that was being rapped in. how and why did that end up happening with the kind of the country accent thing?
You asked me earlier about what part did each member play. Ice Dog was the pen. He wrote almost everything and then broke the verses down with Tone in LA. That was a team collab because of the background. That was the beginning of Amen Brother that was playing behind where it was kind of like a hillbilly twang. amazing that you even remember So Ridiculous. You know, we incorporated Monty G into that song because he was like along for the ride in case the system broke down. Monty would come on and get on the mic and start beatboxing until I figured out the mixer situation. So, you know, we put him on that song, So Ridiculous. It was just that's kind of showed the versatility, you know, of us because we were one of the only rap groups that had a white dude, a black dude, a Puerto Rican dude, and a mixed dude. And like the United Nations of hip hop, you know, it was good for us. It was a good marketing tool. We always were, you know, when we came into the club, all the heads turned because, you know, it was kind of different. It wasn't a United Nations, you know, gathering of hip hop in the same group. And we kind of used that to our advantage, you know, as far as marketing.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did that affect you guys positively or negatively?
It affected us really positive. It opened doors for other DJs. Me as a DJ, I know that by taking the steps that I took to do at first street parties, and then proving that it can go from the street to a label deal. Other DJs in Philly, you know, followed my path. You know, Scratch Mechanics, DJ Sat One, Butch Mayo. There's been a lot of DJs. I mean, I don't know who I am the grandfather to, you know, as far as DJs in Philly, but they know. You know, they tell me all the time. And the people who I've ran into over the course of the last 30 years have always big me up. They've always given me a positive reinforcement to go on and take this next step, even when I felt like I didn't want to do it anymore. Maybe life was getting in the way. Too much shit was going on. Addiction, a lot of different stuff had to happen and maybe be overcome, or at least avoided in order for us to get to the part where, you know, where we're at now. It's just a crazy journey, bro.
Certainly is. One other song on Fan Jam before we move on was the Def John that sampled Bustin' Loose.
Yeah, Def John. Yeah, that
So
was
what that samples Chuck Brown, Bustin' Loose. I'm a huge Go-Go fan. That's the creator of Go-Go, and then that song is the launching pad of it. So in Philly, what made you guys gravitate toward Bustin' Loose?
Bustin' Loose was on 12-inch singles, but you had to play them on 45. We had two, and it was one of the famous, you know, scratch routines of using that beat where we go bustin' loose now, boom, boom, and then the beat comes in. So I saw Lightning Rich scratch it. I saw a couple other DJs scratch it, but when we bought it and it was on 45, well, that made it a little bit more difficult to scratch because it's going faster, you know, so you couldn't be as quick on the wrist with that one. So, hey, we said, why don't we sample it? Well, now we got Ultra. We got enough sampling time. We can actually grab the whole loop or at least pieces of the loop, you know? And yeah, that was really a lot of the stuff that we did as Tuff Crew came from other DJs' routines. For example, Smooth Momentum on the Danger Zone album. We did a show with Cash Money, DJ Cash Money, and he was cutting Bouncy Lady, but he was cutting it with his stomach. He was moving the fader back and forth with his stomach and doing, you know, beat juggling and shit. But just walking in the club and Cash being on stage, that moment hit me so hard. We went home and sampled the Bouncy Lady, you know, and made it become Smooth Momentum, as did Jazzy Jeff with, you know, Brand New Funk. Those were at the same exact time, you know.
But you also used it on Toughness in the House too.
Yeah, we did. We did. I mean, some of it was recycled. We only had so many records at that time, you know what I mean? I had all-time favorites.
Well, that was leading in, since you mentioned it in a different context, but that was kind of my question with Toughest in the House and then with Smooth Momentum on Danger Zone. I was intrigued that you had used the same sample in a similar way on consecutive projects. And that was purely because you didn't have that many records to choose from, or?
No, not so much purely because of that, because by the Danger Zone album, we did have access to a million different things. But on that Fan Jam album, we didn't really get to put forth the effort that we wanted to put. We wanted to be kind of like, you know, the hardcore dudes. We wanted to be the Raiders Jackets dudes with the, you know, burned down building behind us. And that's not what we were on Fan Jam. We were the graffiti kids with the, you know, graffiti down the side of our leg. And we used to do hip hop dancers, dance steps. We had a choreographer. It was okay. You know, we went along with the program because we didn't know any better. But once we were given the opportunity to create our own identity musically. I thought I turned this off. Create our own music identity, our own musical identity by making our own beats. Now armed with the ultramagnetic flavor, we got that in the back pocket.
Right.
That's really, we went back and used something else. And actually, we used it a third time, which is going to be on the new Tuff Crew album, Smooth Momentum. It's called Superman.
All right. Well, I look forward to hearing it. Now,
Awesome.
with Danger Zone, I realize from what you had said earlier, financially, maybe things hadn't changed too much as far as an advance or something because you weren't getting the money. But with making Danger Zone and with the increased distribution, like what had changed for you guys creatively or inspiration wise, going from just being on So Def Records to So Def Warlock, which, as you mentioned, had the Jungle Brothers, it had a lot of other stuff going on.
Well, that enabled us to start touring really quickly. Once my part of town being distributed by Warlock only got it in 9 states, but somehow it went a lot farther than 9 states and it got overseas. And there was a group overseas called King B. They kind of did a copycat album called Royal Jelly, and they had 2 songs on there. It sampled Tuff Crew's voices on it, but we'll get to that in a minute. You were talking about how did it affect us? It definitely improved our visibility, because the first tour that we were on, Christmas Day, the Move Something tour with 2 live crew, ridiculous. We go down to Miami, Florida, we got leather bombers on because it's snowing up here. We get to Miami, first time ever. Again, we're kind of like kids, 17, 18, 19 years old. We feel like dickheads because we got fucking leather bombers on with fur shit around it, and we meet Shy D. We get to our hotel room and Shy D climbs in the window, like off of the roof in our window, we got to chill with Luke Skywalker. I met EPMD for the first time. I met Salt and Pepper. A lot of people were on that tour. Right after that, we got added to the LL Cool J Nitro tour. So I got to meet Slick Rick, LL Cool J. We did a couple shows, Tone Loc, Stetson Sonic, De La Soul. We were actually in Miami with De La Soul. I saw them in the swimming pool over there. So I was all fanboyed out because I seen Pasta Noose in the swimming pool, But
Crazy.
yeah, it gave us the whole ride, and then we were hearing rumors about overseas. They love you. They love us overseas, We couldn't see it because we were struggling with our Jeep payments, Now we did get advances, and with those advances, we bought Jeeps, and we all had brand new Jeeps. So we were hood rich. But when I say we might not have gotten paid everything that we were due, I'm more so speaking along the terms of longevity, royalty statements coming from licensing now. We did all right. We did all right because we did a lot of shows and we stayed busy. Mm-hmm. By the time Rec Shop came out, there were rumblings of a breakup, just because of what I'm telling you, financial miscalculations that we didn't feel things were adding up right. And then, God let the contract end. The management contract was 3 years, but the recording contract was 4 years, which stuck Mitch in a position where he owed Warlock 1 more album, but he didn't have the rights, to us. So 2 members left, me and Tone. We left the group. Ice and LA Kid went back and did the last album, which was called Still Dangerous, which is one of my favorite albums because that album is dissing me. If you listen in there, you hear all the disses about, all kind of different shit. Go pick up the Still Dangerous album by Tuff Crew.
Yes. No respect.
No respect. We was trying to copy the Ice Cube Eazy-E NWA breakup,
But before we get to that, though, on Danger Zone, there was Feel So Good that also had some disses on there. So what was going, I never understood this. So what was the origin of this song?
The one stood a posse of nuts said they'd take us out. We let them know what Danger Zone's about. Yup, they came incorrect and shit. So we dissed them with the E-Pod system. They came with 2 weak dancers, fooling them bloomers. We heard the rumors. We heard that y'all said that they dissed the Tuff Crew. Get the fuck out of here. They ain't doo-doo. So that's what you're talking about. We had a Steady B and the Hilltop was the competition. I'm not going to say the enemy. because they weren't the enemy, because I played their shit. Once more, you hear the dope stuff, crushing and busting, all of that early stuff. I was a huge 3D fan. EST is my man now. You know, when I'm with EST, I'm still starstruck. If I'm with Beanie Siegel, I'm starstruck. You know, I'm with OT the Real, I'm starstruck. I love hip hop. And the characters in the hip hop are much like the wrestling characters. You know what I mean? Being around them, I had to develop my own costume and my own kind of shit. I lost the direction of the question. Take me back.
Just what was the origins of Feel So Good and the beef that you guys had on?
Yeah, I said the whole rhyme. You know, like I said, 3 Times Dope was kind of like the competition. There was a couple of situations where we heard there was rumors going on. You know, who's better, Tuff Crew or 3 Times Dope? 3 Times Dope originally was from North Philly too, so it was kind of like who's the best in North Philly type shit. And then they linked up with Steady B, and that was like the deal breaker for us, because Pooh had the war with Steady B that I told you about. That's how he got onto our album. So it was kind of like you had to align with what was going on. And we were looking for a confrontation anyway. We wanted something to bring our name to the forefront,
Okay, fair enough. Now with Deuce's house and even my part of town, throughout Danger Zone, there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of room where you shine, scratching wise in particular. And I wanted to get because even in '88, this was still happening on record, but I would also say Danger Zone shows an unusual amount of time for the DJ. So how did you guys agree or make sure that ended up happening?
Well, an opportunity was presented, after I had the one instrumental on Fan Jam, I kind of felt like that was part of the program. So I would go and create my own songs. I would make 4. If I knew we had a album coming up, I already had 4 ready. Some of those 4 that I had ready turned into actual songs, like It's Mad. But most of the 4, Soul Food, Behold the Detonator. Detonator was originally an instrumental, John, that Ice ended up, penning a classic to. But I pride myself in being prepared. I pride myself in having a fully loaded stash of ammo whenever the opportunity should present itself for a gunfight. I'm always ready. And I'm nervous enough. I'm a white kid going into an all-black party. I'm nervous enough. I gotta fucking perform well, bro. I gotta come prepared. I gotta do the work before I get there, just to overcome the fear factor. Just to be honest with you, I'm not Superman. When I go in there, I got the jitters. The jitters go away when my finger hits the wax, and then I'm cool. So I kind of pride myself in just being prepared, man. I love this shit, and the last thing I want to do is embarrass myself.
Makes sense.
I talk too much shit to embarrass myself.
Gotcha. Now on Back to Rec Shop, your guys' next album, you had To Go in the Distance, which had the same type of sample or feel that the Puffy Biggie song Victory with Busta Rhymes had.
Mm-hmm. So ours, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Ours was before Puff.
Well, I'm well aware of that because I was 89. But my question is this: when you hear someone that obviously they're at the top of the game, one of the biggest people in music, but when you hear them using the same sample in the same way, let's see, yours was 89, that was like 97-ish, so 8 years later or something. What's your how does that make you feel? Good, bad, otherwise you don't care? Like, what do you feel about it?
I feel like it's homage. I feel like, Puff Daddy is he's done it to many other people. You had to make a certain amount of noise in order to get into Puffy's, listening range. We never felt salty about it. We noticed it, obviously, but it was sort of like homage. The same thing with King B, Royal Jelly, Puff Daddy, Jazzy Jeff, and the Fresh Prince with Brand New Funk. I can take offense to these things, like, they fucking bit our shit, or I can look at it for what it is and say that we made a really huge impact on the right people by putting out the right styled songs and using the beats the correct way in order to inspire somebody else to want to do their own spin-off of it. We sampled shit from other people who we knew didn't have the juice to get it on the radio. And that's what Puffy did. You know, we don't have the juice to get it to where Puffy can get it if he had it. Maybe that was his shit. Maybe he was sitting home, you know, listening to the Tuff Crew album. Was like, yo, we gotta fucking sample this joint, you know? Hey, that's part of the journey. I'm happy. I'm glad Puffy liked our shit enough to sample it and steal it.
In the beginning, hip-hop was ruled by the East Coast. Then the West Coast rose to prominence thanks to gangster rap.
Straight out of Compton, crazy motherfucker named Ice Cube.
Hip-hop changed the world. Gangster rap changed the narrative.
I'm representing for the gangsters all across the world.
And then changed the world again.
Cause I'll come and take your life away.
The history of gangster rap features unheard stories, unseen photos and documents, all with exclusive interviews from the founders and players who shaped gangster rap.
I think a real gangster rapper has to scare you a little bit.
The history of gangster rap written by veteran rap journalist Soren Baker. In stores now.
Yo, what up? This is DJ Quick. Be sure to pick up my homeboy Soren Baker's book, The History of Gangster Rap, if you really want to know what we do.